Hey guys, Walls here. This is an introduction to the Golden Shovel Poetry Unit. Fun little creative writing thing that I've done for a few years now. Hope you guys have fun doing it. So let's talk about poetry in general first. Why I like to use poetry is kind of at the end of the year is because generally speaking, lets kids have more fun. Now I know poetry can be intimidating, and a lot of times we read poetry and think like, what does this mean? This person is clearly like on some other level than me. But what I hope to do with this unit is show you that poetry actually exists all around you, and you can find inspiration in any little thing and create poetry based on any idea, really. So I think here I put poetry reveals, dot dot dot. I want you to think about this. For me, poetry reveals what's already there. You don't have to go anywhere special or be in any specific environment to write poetry. You can look around you and find stuff to write about. Poetry also inspires. Poetry begets poetry. If you don't understand poetry, ironically, the more poetry you read, the better you are able to understand kind of the flow and the way authors put together words and lines and stanzas and all that. And poetry creates. Me personally, not to be too like uh, dramatic, I guess. Poetry creates beauty in the world. It creates whatever we want to create. A lot of the writing you guys have to do in school is so focused on following the rules, and there are rules in poetry. But generally speaking, poetry is about breaking some of those rules. So, yeah, enough about poetry. Uh, Metaphysically, let's talk about like actual structures of poetry. So, one of the cool things I love about poetry is authors of poems will take really big, complicated ideas and write about them in ways that are very, very clear and succinct and simple. And they use it. They use the same. All authors of poetry use the same stuff. They have lines, and those individual lines, form stanzas. Think about sentences and paragraphs there, except a line of poetry doesn't have to be a sentence. It doesn't even have to be a complete thought. We'll see an example of poetry coming up where one word is a line of poetry. So lines build stanzas, and taken together, the stanzas build the meaning of the poem. Now, within those lines and stanzas, you might find uh, rhythm or meter. Just think of have you guys ever done one of those things where you clap on stressed and unstressed syllables? And we start reading our Shakespeare. Shakespeare writes his plays with specific meter and rhythm in mind, based upon unstressed and stressed syllables. Yeah, rhyme scheme. When we think of poetry, we usually think of rhymey poetry, poetry that has that A B C D rhyme scheme to it. Now, alliteration and consonants; those are repetitions of sounds specifically. And for one of the poems we're going to read here in a minute, alliteration is key. Now, think about repetition though. Why do poems have repetition in them? Why is it that when kids first start reading, they love books that have rhyme in them or repeated lines, repeated words? Repetition signals our brain. I mean, think about your favorite songs. The first thing you remember is the chorus, or if you listen to a song over and over again, the lyrics just kind of get burned into your memory. Repetition triggers our brain into paying attention and going, "Ooh, this is important." So, in a poem that has repetition or assonance or consonance or alliteration, the author does that stuff on purpose, to focus our attention on a specific theme in the poem. All right, then you've also got imagery, figurative language, metaphors, similes, all that stuff. Hyperbole, in poetry is you know what I'm talking about. All right, moving on. All right, now this is what I really want to talk about: fixed form versus free form. Free form poetry has no strict pattern. There's no strict repetition or rhyme scheme, and it kind of opens up the poem, the page, to be whatever the poet wants it to be. Fixed form poems lock a poet into a specific rhyme scheme or a specific meter or rhythm, like sonnets. All sonnets have a rhyme scheme. Shakespearean sonnets, kind of I guess the most popular or well known, all have A B C D C D E F rhyme schemes, meaning you have uh, three quatrains and a couplet. We'll get into all that later. So if I say to myself, man, I really want to write a sonnet and I want to write a Shakespearean sonnet, I am automatically locking myself into a specific rhyme scheme and form, and I've got to play within the rules there. And that can be a challenge. That can also be fun. if you have to play within the limits there. But we're going to read two, well, technically two free-form poems, but one of them has a little more structure. All right, so our first poem is Storm Ending by Jean Toomer. And if I just count the lines, I see I've got 9 lines and it's one stanza. I don't see any rhyme scheme, heads, flowers, wind, ears. So that is going to be, it's going to be free form. And as you read, I want you to pay attention to the imagery and figurative language. What is the author calling our attention to, and what comparisons are being made? All right, so here's our poem. Thunder blossoms gorgeously above our heads, great hollow bell-like flowers rumbling in the wind, stretching clappers to strike our ears. Full-lipped flowers bitten by the sun, bleeding rain, dripping rain like golden honey, and the sweet earth flying from the thunder. All right, so the subject of this poem is literally a thunderstorm, and like the title suggests, that storm is ending. Now, right here, thunder blossoms gorgeously above our heads. If we just don't even look at this next line, I mean, obviously, he's comparing the thunderstorm. Let's go back to flowers, but this verb right here is key. Stop it. Thunder blossoms. We know that flowers blossom, and we don't usually ascribe the verb blossoms to something else, specifically a thunderstorm. But that word right there, I mean, think about the last time you heard a really good like, rolling thunderclap. Like it starts out and kind of develops and keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger until finally it just kind of goes away. I mean, like that's what he's talking about here, not just like one of those sharp like bangs of a thunderclap, like just something that really develops over time. Now, he compares thunderstorms to flowers here, or thunderclaps. Here, though, he's actually talking about real flowers. He makes a transition. This dot 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 kind of breaks the poem, even though it's a very short poem, into two parts. The first part, he's actually talking about a thunderclap. Here, he's talking about flowers. Now, what's happening to those flowers? Now, this bitten by the sun thing is key right here, because what literally happens after a storm is over? The sun comes out, right? Bleeding rain. The word bleeding there kind of irks me because it, I don't know, it's got kind of a negative connotation, but generally speaking, I'm getting positive vibes from this poem. Dripping rain like golden honey. There's a line that is key. He is comparing the rain coming off of the flowers to golden honey. And you've got the word sweet here. So generally speaking, the poem is positive, right? I don't want to give away too much of the answers to the common lit stuff here. All right, so what do you think the theme of the poem is? When you answer the common lit questions, that's actually one of the questions is like identify the theme of a poem. And I want you to think about this. How does the form of this poem help the author get his point across? Think about a thunderstorm. One of the reasons that storms can be scary is that they are unpredictable. And how does that tie into? I mean, like this by not tying himself down to a structure here, by not tying himself down to a pattern of rhyme or rhythm, what does that allow the author of the poem to do? Just like what happens with a thunderstorm. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So this is the poem "Truth" by Nikki Grimes. I got to move myself here. There we go. All right. Now, the poem here, I want you to pay attention to this. If you just read Thunder blossoms gorgeously above our heads, that's the first line of the poem we just read called Storm Ending. This is a golden shovel poem. A golden shovel poem is a poem where the author takes a striking line from somewhere else and makes that the form of their poem. That's kind of the backbone or building blocks of an original poem. So Nikki Grimes read Truth, or excuse me, read Storm Ending by Jean Toomer, and that line struck her. Now, when you do this on your own, you're going to find a striking line from a song that you like. I can't tell you what makes a striking line striking for you. It's just a line that you read that you just go, whoa. It could be a line that you like the sound of, maybe the rhythm and rhyme is cool. It could be a line that, has emotional resonance within you that you think is powerful. Or, I mean, it's just a line that you think is cool. Like it just strikes you. So Thunder blossoms gorgeously above our heads struck Nikki Grimes, and she wrote this poem. Let's read it. The truth is, every day we rise like thunder, a clap of surprise. Could be echoes of trouble or blossoms of blessing. You never know what garish or gorgeously disguised memories to be might rain down from above. So look up, claim that cloud with a silver lining. Our job, if you ask me, is to follow it, see where it heads. Okay, so here she's talking about a storm. just like in storm ending. But in storm ending, it's actually a storm. Here, the storm is a metaphor. What do you think that Nikki Grimes is actually talking about when she talks about a literal storm? And how does this poem's theme relate to storm ending? The theme of storm ending, I should say. Now, let's talk about alliteration. So, alliteration is a repetition of sounds in words kind of close together. And we've got examples here. You've got blossoms of blessing. You've got that BL sound there. You've got garish or gorgeously. You've got that hard G consonant sound. And then you've got claim that cloud. I like that one, claim that cloud. Think about those actual examples of alliteration. Our brains subconsciously we're keying into that when we read the poem. And when you go back and think about it, when you go back and actually look at it, what words, you've got blossoms of blessing, garish or gorgeously, claim that cloud, all of those, the tone of those examples is it's all positive. So how does that affect the tone of the poem overall, would you say? Okay, so what this means for you is you have to create a golden shovel poem, myself up here, and I've got a handout. Like this goes to a Google Classroom assignment, and the handout is attached there. You can go read the handout. But I want you to find a striking line from a poem or song that you really like. This should say song right here. Yeah, poem over and over again. Okay, and then you've got to make a poem about that. So use what do you call it? Stop it. Use this as your example. I mean, what I would literally do is write the line straight down and then build on the other side of it. And your poem, so you got two rules. You have to have as many lines in your poem as there are in the striking line, as there are words in the striking line. So if your striking line has 8 words in it, you're going to have 8 lines in your poem. And your poem must clearly maintain the tone and theme of the original song. So if the song that the line came from is about a specific theme or emotion, try to channel that into your original poem. Don't just make it like random. You know what I mean. I hope. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know on Google Classroom, and I might make a short video about the actual worksheet itself, going over that. All right, guys. Hope you're having a good one. Talk to you soon.